Shalom. Kal Halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakakadash, and double honors to the elders and apostles at Great Millstone for bringing out this truth. And shalom to the hopeful elect, 144,000, pushing this word in all truth and sincerity, and the rest of the hopeful elect, men, women, and children listening, learning, and obeying. So it's your brother Darashimat, and I'm back with another lesson, and the title of this one is going to be called Feminism Has Occult Origins. So I ran across this video by Rachel Wilson, basically diving into feminism, the usual rhetoric that you hear. Oh, it was about women trying to get on equal footing with men. They were tired of being abused. They didn't want to be like their grandmothers and the people before them who went through all of this stuff, and they didn't have their own. And this just gives a totally different perspective on the origins of feminism. But before we dive into the video, we'll get a few scriptures. Most likely, this will have to be like a multi-part series because it's a pretty long video, so I doubt I'll be able to do it all in one sitting. Okay, so we're going to start off with 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 3. This is the divine order. It says, "But I would have you know that the head of every man is Hamashiach, and the head of the woman is man, and the head of Hamashiach is Yahweh." So this is the divine order. The Father, the Son, then the man, and then the woman. That is the order that is set up. But we know that feminism is set up to basically disrupt that order. Trying to put, I wouldn't even say trying to put the woman on equal footing with the man, because they're trying to be above the man. And once you get into this video, you'll see like what the real goal of feminism is. And I didn't even know this before I watched it, so it's a really good video. But let's go back to the beginning, Genesis chapter 3. And so you can see, like, this is how I would say feminism got started in a way. The woman basically trying to get out of her position instead of staying where the Most High Yahweh had set her up to be. She was trying to be something more than what she was supposed to be. Because Yahweh Shem Yahushua made her as a helpmate to Adam, so she was supposed to be under Adam. But she wanted more. She wanted wisdom. She wanted to listen to the serpent. So just as Genesis chapter 3 and verse 1, it says, "Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field." And now this serpent is going into someone who practiced divination. Right now, that same spirit is on Esau Edom. That's how he is deceiving the world and these women out here to follow all of these doctrines. Because he's very subtle. And the beast of the field is going into these heathen nations, the people who don't have the breath of life in them, of the field which Yahweh power had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath Yahweh said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? So he's setting them up. Okay? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Yahweh had said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. So she heard what Yahweh said. She knew what Yahweh said. I can't say she heard it. I know he told it to Adam. But she knew what Yahweh said. And then the serpent gonna tell her something different. So why is she gonna believe the serpent over Yahweh? For Yahweh doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods or powers, knowing good and evil. So this is still the same thing with women these days. Women just want to hear things that sound good to them. Like, they don't want to hear the truth. They just want you to tell them what they want to hear. They have itching ears. They just want to hear what you want to hear, what they want to hear. If you have a smooth tongue, you could talk a woman into anything and you could talk her out of anything, i.e., her clothes. Because they just want to hear what they want to hear. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. Let's scroll down to Genesis 3 and 16. And it says, Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bear 4 children, thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Rule over thee. Okay? You can't be over or equal to somebody that rules over you. You are under them. You are a helpmate. You are a servant. That is the position that Yahweh set you up to be in. You can't escape that position. That is your role. Okay? That's how things work best. Now let's go and get a little bit of this video.
Book has got to be about this, because this is where this idea is coming from, you know? So that's how it started.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I remember reading a long time ago the associations between the women's liberation movement and the older ideas of goddess worship, the older ideas of what would eventually become witchcraft, modern witchcraft. And a lot of people they're surprised when they find out that modern witchcraft, I know you know this, but modern witchcraft, it's got this pedigree, or this idea behind it, that it is old and that we're going back to some ancient religion. But the irony is that the modern proponents of Wicca are actually people who made up the religion wholesale from a conglomeration of other religions, and they were all dudes who wanted to smack the butts of naked women in the forest, and has nothing to do with women's empowerment, has nothing to do, has to do with dirty old men, basically. So that was something that I noticed that surprised me, and so I'm happy to see that you did a whole book. And I've not read the entire book yet, but I have read some sections that I thought were really cool. What one thing that I didn't know about that you really honed in on in this book was, I knew about Mary Wollstonecraft and all these people, but suffragettes. You're saying that suffragettes were tied into this stuff? Can you go into that?
Yeah. So everybody in school gets like a little tidbit of, Susan B. Anthony, maybe Elizabeth Cady Stanton, even President Trump post-mortem gave Susan B. Anthony like a pardon because she had been arrested and gone to prison for the suffrage movement. And so everybody is told this fairy tale that one day in the late 1800s, women looked around and they went, gee, golly gosh, I'm oppressed. I don't have any freedoms, and I'm forced to stay home, and I want to have a career, and why can't I do the things men do? This isn't fair. And they all gathered together and they got their signs and they started marching and they demanded that they could vote, and they liberated everyone. And we're all supposed to be grateful and thankful to them for their hard work of liberating women, when really that's not what happened at all. So the suffragettes...
So before she go on, so she's talking about the rhetoric that is spewed, that basically it's like the hook. It's the bait that draws women in. They tell them these stories about, oh yeah, now you have equality, now you have these opportunities to do all this. You go to college, you get this education, you could be on equal footing with men, and all of this stuff. And it's all just lies, because feminism has nothing to do with it. That's all Esau does, is he just lies. All right, let's continue.
In large part, many of them, most of them, there's actually an old saying that there's pretty much no suffragette who hasn't sat at the seance table. And this is because the suffrage movement came about at a time when spiritualism was huge. It was like right after the First and Second Great Awakenings in America, when We got some really kooky, crazy ideas about what Christianity was. It started to be mixed in with transcendentalism and Unitarians and Universalists and all these crazy heresies. Some of the most radical Protestant liberation theology people really got into feminism and women's lib because it kind of went along with like emancipation from slavery and other social movements that were happening. So many of them made a living on the side as tarot card readers, fortune tellers, spirit mediums, and things of that nature. One of the most popular ones being Victoria Woodhull. If you guys have never heard of Victoria Woodhull, she's pretty interesting. She was actually the first woman who ran for president with Frederick Douglass. And she ran as, I think, the Equality Party. So this is not, if you guys think this stuff is brand new, it's not. We're talking about, the 1880s, 1890s here that she was doing this. And it's very interesting, her story, because if you guys are familiar with Jay's work, she was bankrolled and financed by Cornelius Vanderbilt, who was like the big patriarch of the Vanderbilt family. She and her sister were literal snake oil salesmen who were on the run from the law because they were selling fake cancer treatments. They were doing, spells and witchy things to try to heal people from diseases. And they would continually get caught, in one state and have to flee to another state to avoid prosecution. And at some point they got hooked up with Cornelius Vanderbilt, and he would say that they were his spirit mediums. Now, he made a huge amount of money in one of the first Black Friday market crashes, and the New York Times interviewed him and asked him, how did you make this money? How did you know this was going to happen? He made like 26 million in today's money. I think it was 1.3 million at the time. And he said, do as I do and consult the spirits. So he said that these women had done seances and given him this spiritual insight. But what really happened was they were both free love advocates. They were kind of pimps. They had a prostitute network that would spy on rich men and bankers. And they would get intel from different people in the market and then give it to Cornelius Vanderbilt. So were they doing witchcrafty stuff? Probably. Were they also total frauds and con artists? Absolutely. Either way, the gender studies professors don't want to tell you that part. They literally gush over this woman like she's some amazing hero who liberated women when she was a snake oil salesman and a con artist. So that's it.
And so that's what Esau does. He tries to cover up history. He doesn't want the truth to come out. He wants the narrative to be portrayed the way he wants it to be portrayed. He doesn't want the truth. And, our people suffer because of lack of knowledge. So they buy into this doctrine that Esau pushes or whatever he pushes out, and they latch on to it. So just like you see Eve in the garden, she was latching on to whatever the serpent was pushing, trying to get wise, not listening to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, trying to do it another way. That's the same thing that our people do, and especially our women biting on to this feminism, and then our men, they support it too. And so it's just all madness. They're not looking to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai for guidance. They're looking to these doctrines and philosophies of Esau Edom. And you see that feminism doesn't have its origin in pureness, like anything that started with Esau. It was always something nefarious behind the scenes, and they go even deeper into it the deeper you go into this video. And you see how these people were dealing with occult practices, they were dealing with prostitution, and guess who? Guess who else is looped in here? The wicked elite. They mentioned the Vanderbilts. Later on, they could go into the Rockefellers. They could even go into the Rothschilds because they all had a hand in this. How you think these women just got this money to start this movement, to do all of this? They were funded by the wicked elite to prop up their agenda, which this video also goes into. I encourage you to watch it. I'll put the link in the description once I get this video posted. But let's get some scripture. So let's go to the book of Psalms, chapter 82 and verse 5. And it says, they know not, neither will they understand. They walk in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. So everything is backwards in the earth. It's all out of course. This is not how things are supposed to be. There's not supposed to be no feminism. This is what happened when you got wicked people in rule. This is not how things can go. They demonize the patriarchy and make up all kind of things about what happened, but that's not what happened. That's not history. They try to glorify their doctrines and their philosophies. They try to make good evil and evil good. And that's what these people do. And that's what's popularized and famed in this world. And it's just not right. So Yahweh Shem Yahushai made things a certain way. Who are we as humans to try to usurp his authority and say, no, this is how things should go? So this is Isaiah chapter 29 and verse 16. Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. For shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not? Or shall the thing framed of him that framed it, he had no understanding? Oh, or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, he had no understanding? So how you tell the Most High that the way he made things is wrong? None of us have understanding on the level that Yahweh Shem Yahushai has an understanding. So who are we to be like, oh no, we don't like your order, the whole Yahweh Shai, man, woman, that order don't seem right. Let's just change it. Like, who are you? That's how you understand like who Esau Edom really is. Like, if you just look throughout history, you can clearly see who the man of sin is. He literally tried to turn everything upside down. He literally tries to go against Yahweh on every single step of the way. He thinks he is the Most High. Okay? And when I say Esau and I say he, I'm talking about the whole nation. Man, woman, and child. Esau, Edom, them red people, the red Hebrew Edomites, the cavemen from the Caucasus Mountains. That's what I'm talking about. Esau, Edom. All of them. There's none righteous among Esau, Edom. The wicked can't do right. All right. Let's get back to this video. Let's go to...
all of his theology, but Rushini has a great book on the history of American education, and a large portion of it was several chapters dedicated to these people who were, like you said, not just theosophists and socialists and Unitarian Universalists. That was actually a cover for some of what at that time was occult groups, New Age stuff, witchcraft. They were hiding and doing stuff under the banner of the Unitarian Universalist Church. And so that was one of the hotbeds of these revolutionary ideas at that time. But they specifically said that they wanted to create public education as a means to bring, quote, the new age and the socialist utopia. They really thought that they could do that through this brainwashing mechanism, which had nothing to do with teaching people how to think, but rather teaching people how to be socialized, as they said. So what's fascinating, that as Rachel's bringing to the table here, is that they weren't just involved in education and changing society. They were involved directly, all of these same people and these same families in...
Now you hear him talk about this socialist utopia and stuff. Esau Edom has always been pushing to get everybody under him, to believe the same thing, to all just be one people under him. Like, that's always been his goal. That's always what he's been trying to do. You can see it over there in biblical times. They was just trying to heap all of these people, like, forget your laws, forget your customs, come together. And even then, that's what they was trying to do back then. Create this socialist utopia with everybody. Okay, and now here we are in the 2024, and what are they pushing? Their one world order. That's what he going for. As soon as he sit down to eat, that's when y'all Bashim y'all shy. Gonna rain down that fury on him. All right, let's continue.
Feminism, and so it's not a women's liberation tool. Then is it a tool of? Is it actually the tool of oppression?
Yeah, I would say that it is. Like, if you go to where you can find my book and you read the little description, I actually make that argument and I say what feminism promised us was, it's going to protect you from, abusive husbands and boyfriends. It's going to liberate you and give you financial freedom. And then you can love someone just because you love them and not because like you need them to survive. Like all these promises of what feminism was supposed to do for women. It didn't do any of that. In the last chapter, I go over a ton of data and statistics that prove that. What it did was take women away from the people who actually have a vested interest in their well-being, their father.
And then look who front and center. Eve. The poster child. Eve and Esau.
Their husbands, the men around them who love and care about them. And part of feminism is you kind of have to buy into this idea that all throughout history, men didn't give a crap about their wives, their daughters, their sisters, their mothers, that they just brutally oppressed them or, acted like cavemen and abused them and beat them. These are all really big myths and just things that have been perpetuated. And I still hear it all the time. I debate this subject all the time with other women who are feminists, and they will repeat these same tropes to me over and over. And so the second chapter of the book, I think I take some time to go over all of those myths and kind of debunk them. Like, yes, women could own property. Yes, women could own businesses. Yes, they could do a lot of things throughout history. And what feminism did was it just like dismantled the family. That's all it did. It didn't liberate women because now.
So you even see that in the scriptures where there was this family and they didn't have any men to inherit the land. So the land ended up going to the daughter. This issue was brought up to Moses and the elders, and they talked with Yahweh, or I forget exactly how it goes, but those women were able to own property. So it's even in the scriptures.
Women, if you look at the jobs we worked 100 years ago in 1920 and you compare them to the top jobs we work now, they're almost exactly the same. We basically swapped out farm labor for HR work and everything else is still the same. Secretary, nurse, kindergarten teacher, daycare worker, retail people, cashier, cook, things of that nature is still what women do. So now, instead of working for your family, for your husband, for your children, you work for international corporations. So what did this do? It doubled the tax base, number one. Number two, it brought down the price of labor because it flooded the labor market in less than 20 years and drove down wages and made it almost impossible for people to survive on a single family income. And what did that do? It means, well, mom has to work now, so the kids have to go to daycare. They have to go to a before school program, and then they're in public school for 7 hours, and then they go to an after school program. And they have programs like Head Start where they want you to get kids into these programs at 2 years old, 6 months old, things like that. And they're in it all the way through until college. And then they go to college and get indoctrinated further. And women now hold 65% of all college debt in this country. So the average woman starts out in life with $30,000 in debt, a job that makes an average of $40,000 a year. And if she does want to have kids, she's got to pay childcare. She's got to pay the student loan. How is this freedom exactly? These are the things I went through as a young woman where I was like, who came up with this? This is a terrible system, and it makes no sense. Yeah.
So going back to some of that history that I didn't know about that I find fascinating, I'm curious what about, so you mentioned Mary Wollstonecraft. I remember when we were doing my French Revolution classes, we went really deep into that in undergrad and grad school. And I'm trying to remember, I mean, it almost seems like revolutionary socialism almost always has this attached to it. I mean, you don't ever hear about revolutionaries who don't believe in equalitarianism, gender equalitarian, because it all seems to go together with the socialist ethos. Were all of these early feminists just ideologues, or did you ever come across anything that mentioned like the 1700s era feminists? Who was behind that? I mean, was there? Do you know? I've always wondered. I just don't know.
Yeah, so Wollstonecraft was from the French Revolutionary period, and she's actually an example I give of how women couldn't have been that oppressed because she was hanging out with all the male intellectuals of her time, like Thomas Paine, William Godwin, other French revolutionaries. She even traveled from England, where she was from, to France to witness the revolution, to hang out with other revolutionaries. She was paid to write. She was paid to make pamphlets on feminism and things like that by the same type of people who funded the French Revolution and all of those revolutions of that period. So they did kind of choose her and prop her up. And the way she got into those circles was because she was having affairs with several of the men in the circle.
That makes sense. Okay, that's what I didn't know.
So
okay.
she kind of got in that way, and then they kind of propped her up, funded her. She traveled all throughout Europe. She traveled to America. She had multiple affairs. She had a child out of wedlock. And, nobody threw her in jail. Nobody beat her. Nothing happened to her. She was allowed to do this. And it didn't seem like it was a big problem for her. She made a living off of it and traveled the world doing it. So it's hard to imagine that these tales of like beatings and oppression were real, unless the patriarchy was just really slacking off and didn't mind because she was a loose lady or something like that. But yeah, that's basically what happened at the time. Was the free love women who were sleeping around those circles got promoted, got funded, and by the usual suspects,
yeah,
banks
and by the time.
And so you see, just by listening to these people, that these women were supported by men, and these were, as they call them, free love women who just wanted to sleep around, and they just wanted to do that without consequence. They wanted to live out their wickedness free of like any guilt or shame. Because remember, society at large, they didn't follow these customs, but the wicked elite in their circles, they followed these wicked customs. They did all this occult stuff, and they had these agendas, just like our wicked elites still have these agendas. Like they put all of this craziness in our food. They try to make lab grown food. They're trying to come out with the C hip. They're trying to tag you like cattle and make you be property, so you won't be able to buy or sell unless you receive that C hip, which is the RFID, which is the MOTB, which is the mark of the beast coming out. So it's nothing new under the sun, really. It's just a reoccurring thing. And these elites have been working at this for generations and generations. They probably reincarnated, come back, and start working on the same wicked agenda they was working on previously, because that's just a lot they have. So let's get a scripture. So these women buy into this, even the men too, and they have no understanding what they're doing. They believe what Esau Edom tell them. They believe all of these lies that people put in their head. They believe that they've been oppressed. They believe that they didn't have it good. They believe that women should be on equal footing with men. And where has it gotten them? Nowhere. Society is just worse. Like, you can't even support a family on a single income now. Now both people have to work, and now no one gets to be home with the kids. It's just wrong. It's just backwards. Let's go Job 13:4, and it says, "But ye are forgers of lies. Ye are all physicians of no value." That's talking about Esau Edom. He's not bringing any value to this world. All you do is lie and deceive people. And that's why the world messed up now. The people mourn. Why are the people mourning? Because the wicked are in rulership. That's just what's going on. And there's one more section of this video I want y'all to see. And then I'll call it after that for this part. And I'll do a part 2 another time.
Maybe 5 or 6 years ago, was when a group of witches, I'm not joking, put out a book talking about how the goddess is the overthrowing of God the Father. And so feminism is goddess worship, and that is, they were arguing in this book that it was like an academic book that came out. They were arguing that no, to be truly feminist is to be a goddess worshiper, because true feminism is not equal rights, blah, blah, blah. It is, they said, the overthrow of God the Father.
Yes. Yeah, so throughout my book, I make this case a lot, and I provide examples of this throughout pretty much all of history. Again, this isn't like a later thing. This started with First Wave. So one of the people I reference in the book is actually a religious scholar who is a professor in Sweden right now. He wrote his PhD thesis on how Lucifer was the symbol for the women's liberation movement in the mid-1900s.
Yes.
And they were not shy about this. You can go to Amazon right now and order a book called The Woman's Bible by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and 24 other feminists. Now, this was written in the 1880s, came out in the 1890s. They've had multiple press runs of it, even back then, because it did so well. And in the preface, she tells you exactly what she's doing. They were not really trying to hide it. She said the only thing standing in the way of women's liberation is traditional Christianity, because it's patriarchal. And because it's so influential, because the Bible is such a popular book, we cannot just get rid of it. So what we have to do is turn it into something unrecognizable. We have to change it into a liberation theology. We have to turn it into a feminist liberation book instead of a Bible. So that's exactly what they did. They rewrote the first 5 books of the Bible, of the Old Testament, and took out anything patriarchal and changed things they didn't like and made it into something it wasn't. Now, if you look at the group that she wrote that with, out of the 24 women, there were like 8 occultists, 4 New Agers, several Unitarians, a dozen atheists. So it's like a bunch of occultists, New Agers, and atheists rewriting the Bible and then selling it as a woman's Bible. And so at this time period, people didn't know that. They just bought this, and it was a very successful piece of propaganda. So it was always the idea that Christianity is the thing standing in the way. And that's why they embraced it. If you believe in this ideology, you're going to love things like witchcraft or the New Age or Theosophy, because they all have an element recurring throughout of goddesses who are vengeful and punish men.
Yes.
Kali, Lilith, Inanna.
The dark goddess, which is actually something that is popping up. I notice a lot in pop culture of late. So you're seeing this character archetype popping up.
All right, so you heard them. You heard what she said. You heard what he said. True feminism, from the original feminist, what true feminism is the overthrow of Yahweh. That's what feminism is about. Goddess worship. Women trying to be elevated on a pedestal. They're trying to be above the Most High. In true Esau Edom fashion. That's what feminism is about. Not this gender equality stuff, not having equal rights, none of that. We war against we war against principalities, not against flesh and blood. Okay? It's all right there. Now let's finish off this section.
In the last, I'd say 5 years, just everywhere. And this is on the heels of the idea that all of the heroes in all the movies now, especially the action movies, have to be women.
Yep.
Right. And now it's like 13-year-old girls who can, beat up 23 Black Ops guys at one time.
Yes.
Right. It's like,
yes, exactly.
right. I mean,
Chicks.
exactly. Right. It's just getting nuts. And that's all intentional. I think people don't realize that the study of archetypes, I'm not a big proponent of Carl Jung, but there is something to archetypes, because if you're just looking at it from the perspective of semiotics and symbolism for a culture, if I was going to do, let's say, psychological warfare against a culture that had a strong male archetype of who, whatever that might be, a culture that has the notion of God the Father or something like that, what I would want to do is inculcate that culture with revolutionary ideas, especially geared towards the youth, that corrupt that archetype. So there's many ways to do that, and I might do that through having the character of the father always be adult, always be this Homer Simpson kind of goober, always be this coward, always be a soy man, whatever it is. And then I have, the only powerful, strong figure that you look to is a 13-year-old girl who, like slices everybody up with ninja blades, right? I mean, just
or the single mom nuclear
single mom.
scientist
I was going to say the single.
She's a nuclear scientist single mom who's going to save us all from the asteroid or the latest outbreak, right?
Do you remember the it reminds me of the character of yeah, exactly, Christmas Jones.
So you see, feminism directly opposes Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. That's the whole point of it. They're trying to be above the Most High. They're trying to say that they are the Most High. In true Esau Edom fashion. Okay? And we know what the scriptures tell us about changing the scriptures. You're not supposed to do that. But of course, proud Esau, both the men and women, got the nerve to do that. But let's get some scripture and let's close out. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. The 2nd verse, and it says, Ye shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall ye diminish aught from it, that ye may keep the commandments of Yahweh your power, which I command you. So the scripture's not supposed to be changed. But Esau Edom, Esau knew that because he was taught the scriptures. Let's go to the book of Revelations, chapter 22, verse 18. For I testify unto every man that heareth the words of the prophecy of this book, if any man shall add unto these things, Yahweh shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, Yahweh shall take away his part out of the book of life, and out of the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book. Now we know Esau ain't got no part in the book of life, no part in the kingdom, in the New Jerusalem. He don't have no part in that. But I'm just showing you this for edification. Because best believe there was a Jake involved somewhere. There's always a Jake involved. Could be Eve, could be Jake. They got Stockholm Syndrome and they love going along with Esau Edom. All right, let's go to Isaiah chapter 29, verse 15. It says, woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from Yahweh, and their works are in the dark. And they say, who seeth us and who knoweth us? Yahweh sees everything. So these wicked elite, they scheme behind the scenes. They started this whole feminist thing, and now they're getting exposed. You can't hide your counsel from Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. It don't work like that. He sees everything. He said, I will make Esau bare. And Esau is being made bare. All these little shady things he did in the dark, his own people tell on him. And like one of the elders always say, it's usually his own woman that's telling on him. That's how you know your kingdom falling. When your own woman is turning on you. That's how you know. Because even though this is a feminist, this was backed by these elite men. That's who push it. They use these women to push their agenda. And what was their agenda? To destroy the family. Okay? To dwindle down the population. The same way they push the Skittles agenda, as they talk about in this video, or the alphabet soup agenda. That's just Esau Edom. That's what he does. Okay? And so this goddess worship stuff isn't nothing new. This has been happening since the times of Semiramis, or when she changed the name, or when they changed the name to Ishtar or Ashtaroth or the Queen of Heaven. Jake done encountered this before. Ain't nothing new under the sun. Let's go to Jeremiah, the 44th chapter. Let's go down to verse 15. It says, then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other powers. So these men knew it and didn't stop them. Same way it's happening today. Unruly women and the husbands just letting them do it. And all the women that stood by a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answering Jeremiah, saying, as for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of Yahweh, we will not hearken unto thee. Same way today the prophet's telling these people, repent. Repent. Listen to the words. You are the people. They're like, nah, we ain't listening to you. We're going to keep on what we've been doing. We've been praising sweet Jesus all of this time, and things are all right for us. So we going to keep on going. We don't know Yahweh. We don't know Yahweh Shai. I don't believe you. But they believe their oppressor. Stockholm Syndrome. Verse 17. But we will certainly do whatever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto who? The Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings and our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then we had plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil. So that's the same thing these Jakes saying now. They're going to continue to worship their idol Jesus and go to church because their fathers did it. That's what their mama taught them. That's what their daddy did. Their daddy was that preacher at the church, and things went all right for them. Ain't nothing bad happened to them. They ain't saw no evil. They was all right. They're making it in life. They're an engineer now. They put their kid through college. They don't want to hear the truth. They're just like, as long as this thing stay the status quo, we don't need no change. We don't need Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. That's what's going on in Jake's mind. It's the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah, I know we're talking about feminism, but still, it's ridiculous. This Queen of Heaven worship, it just evolved over time. Look at the women in this society. They literally think that their shit don't stink, like they could do anything without any consequences, no accountability. They literally think they are goddesses. Literally. Like they literally think that men are just put here just to worship them and to please them. Like the craziest thing a man could do in this society is legally marry a woman. Like that is the stupidest thing a man can do in this society. Like, even if you don't believe this truth, even if you're a heathen, that's the stupidest thing a man could do in this society, is legally marry a woman, especially in America. But if you're in this truth, do not do that, because that's not real marriage, according to the scriptures. All right, let's continue. Verse 18, but since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. So these people saying, oh, well, when we wasn't doing it, when we wasn't worshiping the Queen of Heaven, all these bad things happened to us. And so they go do it. And that's literally how Jake think. They think, oh yeah, if I'm not worshiping Jesus, if I'm not praying to Mary and saying the rosary, all of these bad things happen to me. But they don't have no understanding. Look at Job. Job was worshiping Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, and bad things still happened to him. And what did he do? He worshiped Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. But I regress. This Queen of Heaven worship stuff is nothing new. Okay? It's just another pagan doctrine that's just been funneled to look cute, to look pretty, to deceive the weak, feeble-minded. Let's get verse 19. And when we burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and poured out drink offerings unto her, did we make our cakes to worship her and pour out our drink offerings unto her without our men? Nope. The men were there. In the same way it is today. The men are right alongside these women, allowing them to do all of this wickedness. Let's get one more precept and then I'm going to close out. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 1 and verse 9. The thing that has been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. So there's no new thing under the sun. So feminism is just repackaging of Queen of Heaven worship. Jake did it in the past, and Jake doing it now. The heathens did it in the past, and the heathens doing it now. It's just repackaged. It's the same thing over and over again. It might not be as apparent, but if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, and if you have the hopeful elect, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai dealing with you, the elect can't be deceived. So you gonna see it. So I hope this lesson was edifying. And with that, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kadash, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom.